adventurers, as pioneers, built a nation, very bravely, in up and down what was then Palestine, and that we that was recognised legally, and now that's the state of Israel. What they say, well, how is this different? We're just continuing the struggle. We're just continuing the fight. And in truth, the religious and historic claim of the Jewish people is better. Taking Genesis as your starting point for those places like East Jerusalem, Hebron, Nablus, than it is for Tel Aviv. That is the heartland of the Holy Land.
I was saying earlier that you don't tend to express opinions within shows, not necessarily much of you personally in there, but in this programme your atheism comes up. There's a reference to your atheism. First of all, I was slightly surprised that was in there. Is that an important part of the programme, do you think?
I think it was something I'd mentioned off camera to one of the characters. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's one of the contributors says, "You've told me you're an atheist." Yeah. And he says, "Forgive me for saying so, but I think it's a stupid way of life."
That's what he said.
And it was just it was a nice moment. I don't consider myself a crusading atheist, and in fact, so I found it a little embarrassing and personal that that's in there. But it seemed relevant because he just as alien as his way of thinking was to me, my way of thinking was utterly alien to him. He was baffled how any reasonable, intelligent person could not believe in God. And so, it was in there for that reason.
By the end of the programme, because of that mindset, the extract we heard there, and because of this fundamental belief that this land belongs to them because of what's written in the Bible, it's a frustrating predicament. It seemed, I walked away from that programme thinking, I don't see how this could ever end. Where's the way out for this? Is there one?
Well, I think that's probably the right thing to take away, in the sense that actually it's really hard to see how any solution is viable. That the two-state solution, which both Netanyahu and the Palestinian leadership say that they're committed to, is really, at this point, very hard to see how it will happen. At the same time, if you want to put a positive spin on it, people are sort of living day to day, and what I'm surprised by, when I'm there, although it's more subtle and it's more subtextual, is that there's a kind of kinship going on beneath the surface. Even when they turn up for demonstrations and they're lobbing rocks at the army and the army's firing tear gas, there's a kind of mutual recognition that's going on. Every day that they get through without massive loss of life is a small victory. And so that, I think it's important to kind of remember that.
You seem to be in a bit of personal danger in the show occasionally as well. You're in a Land Rover that gets pelted with rocks, and you deal with it with good humour. You smile at that point.
It was, I like doing those shows which put me in harm's way a bit. It flatters my vanity that I'm engaged in serious journalism, and so and I go to a couple of demonstrations where they fired tear gas at us. I was tear gassed, and then there was an occasion that we didn't use where I was walking towards an Israeli defence force, sort of like a line of armoured guys, and there was across a field, and there was a tower, a military tower, and a voice came out going, speaking, I think, Hebrew, and my fixer said, "He just said if you take one more step, he will shoot you." And then he said, "But I think you can go a bit further and tease him a little bit."
I don't like this game. I don't like the terms of this game.
I said, "You take another
Why
step."
Why did you leave that bit in?
It wasn't on camera. We were just trying to get our position.
Let's take some news and come back and talk some more with Louis Theroux. 85, but loads of people texting you as well. 85058 bacon at bbc.co.uk. You can see Louis and his aforementioned beard as well by going to bbc.co.uk/5live. Yeah, he's now posing just for you. It's 2:33 and raising his thumb. It's 2:33. More with Louis after the news with Justin Green.
Online at bbc.co.uk/5live.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The Muslim Brotherhood is demanding the Mubarak regime is overthrown. Pro- and anti-government protesters are still fighting on the streets of Cairo and in Tahrir Square. There are reports that law and order have broken down in Alexandria with violent clashes, and at least one foreign TV crew has been attacked. Secret police are out on the streets there. Egyptian state television says the state prosecutor has issued a travel ban and frozen the bank accounts of a number of former ministers and supporting figures. The EU's highest court has been advised to back a British pub landlady who shows Premier League football on a Greek satellite TV service instead of Sky. The Advocate General at the European Court of Justice says Sky's exclusive rights to show live games in the UK break European law.